Let's start. We are already late. So all of you, I don't think so you will know what is Cloudflare is, but I think you will have some idea about Portainer. I gave you a little bit of knowledge about what is Portainer is. So today our session will be on the introduction on Portainer and Cloudflare, and I am going to give you a deep dive on how to use Portainer, why we are using Portainer, what is Cloudflare, why we use Cloudflare, and what are the things that we use inside the Cloudflare. Okay, so this is the hybrid technology that we are using in our company. So many of you, if you don't know Cloudflare, if you know at one point of time that Cloudflare went down and many of the services stopped working on the internet. ChatGPT stopped working and all of those services stopped working. So many of the companies uses Cloudflare to you provide the services. And the thing is that the Cloudflare acts like a reverse proxy. So if you don't know what is proxy and reverse proxy, proxy basically means that it is going to hide the client from the server, and reverse proxy is the totally completely opposite of it. So reverse proxy, what it will do, it will hide the backend server from the internet. And that is what Cloudflare does best. So let's start on the introduction on Cloudflare and Portainer. So as I told, Cloudflare, it is an edge platform that sits in front of everything. It is a gateway between users and our infrastructure. It handles a lot of things. It acts as a reverse proxy. It handles DNS resolutions, CDN, content delivery, network caching, DDS protection, and provides the edge computing platform where our front end and serverless backend logic runs. So what do you mean by CDN DNS? Routes traffic globally, cache as static assets at 300 plus edge locations, and resolves domain names to our origin servers. So if I wanted to show you, what do you mean? What do I mean by DNS domain name system? So if you see my screen, we have DNS records. Okay. You can see that we have a multiple DNS names we are using as zeroaccess.io, svchub.com, humanizeiq.ai. You are seeing that some of the applications have latest.humanizeiq.ai, depth.humanizeiq.ai, and all of those things. How that works? If I click on humanizeiq.ai, you will see the type of the human. Okay, so this type you should know what is A type, A, C name, and all of those things. So these are the types that we use for the name servers. And if I come here, you can see some of the things. Key, it is proxied, it is TTL, what is the name which we are using, apps.humanizeiq.ai. And if you see here, there is a star icon at the front. Star means wildcard. So if I use playtest.apps.humanizeiq.ai, it will work. If I use dev.apps.humanizeiq.ai, it will work. With any entries, it will work. And it is pointing to this IP address. Okay. So this is what DNS is. We are adding domains into our Cloudflare, and we are also adding routes. So there is a section called as routes in Cloudflare. If I go to any of the workers, here you can see a route. Okay. You can add as many as routes you want. You can also use the bindings for it. I guess it moves into somewhere else. It is in domains. Okay. So from here, you can add routes. You can click on edit the routes. You need to select the zone and you need to add the route. So before going deep dive into what is routes and all of those things, first you need to understand what is Cloudflare truly does and what is workers are. So basically, workers runs JavaScript, TypeScript at the edge. So workers is like a serverless computing. If you use AWS Lambda, It is same like as workers. It is going to give you a serverless experience which will run in a JavaScript or TypeScript at the edge, which will requires no cold starts. It automatically gets restarted at every time at milliseconds. It has milliseconds responses, and it works very quickly, and it is lightweight. So it is a serverless technology. We do not need to maintain any infrastructure or anything at all. Cloudflare does everything for us. Then we have storage services, which Cloudflare provides us, that is R2, which is object storage, S3 compatible, and zero egress phase. Now, if I come to the part of the zero egress phase, why we use Cloudflare R2 and why we are not using AWS or S3 compatible things. It also provides us S3 storage bucket, right? The thing is that we are using Cloudflare because it provides zero egress fees. Now, what does zero egress fees means? That Cloudflare only charges to store the documents into the buckets or to store the items into the buckets. It will not charge us to download those things or to send the request to the bucket. But in AWS, whatever request we are sending to the bucket, it is going to charge based on the per request. It is going to charge based on the per download. So that's what does zero egress fees means, which means that Cloudflare is only going to charge of the data which you are storing, not the request that you are making. And D1 is for serverless SQLite database at the edge. So D1 SQLite is also we are using in Cloudflare. So D1 is serverless, and SQLite is a relationship database. If you don't know, there is a difference between relational and non-relational. Relational, basically, it is going to stick with the schema and all of those things. It is going to store your tables and rows and columns. And non-relational doesn't follow that. It can be stored at any format. Key value pairs and all of those things. So here, if I search D1, you can see databases, right? And these are some of the databases which is here. You can also scroll down and you can see there's a sections of compute. Here you can find workers and pages. Then there's a sections of storage and database. Here you can find the R2 object storage and D1 SQLite database. So if I click on D1 SQLite databases, you can see multiple databases we have created. And at any time we can scale it up. It does, and we can also take backup at any point of time. If something went wrong, it automatically provides backup to us. We can roll back at any point of time and at any point of date, or we can store the bookmark, and from the bookmark we can get the data back from the current state. Bookmark is like the state. At which state you store that bookmark ID, it will roll back to that current state. So that also Cloudflare provides us. It's called as time travel for a rollback. And coming to the R2 object storage, if I wanted to show you, these are some of the buckets that we are using. You can see the total storage, operations, and all of those things, how many objects it is there, and what is the size of that bucket. So bucket is kind of look like this. And it stores, if I can show you, it is mostly used to store logs, and sometimes it is not going to preview the data. You need to download and save. So that's how the bucket works. Now, every bucket and every workers, every D1 SQL database, if you want to connect to your backend or front-end applications, especially with the bucket, you need something called as account. Which account, Cloudflare account you want to connect or bind with it, and then you need token to bind with it. So here there is a sections to manage and API tokens and to create those S3 API tokens. And it is S3 API compatible, so it works with, it has a better compatibility. So it has a S3 compatibility. So it is almost similar like AWS. So from here you can create user API token and all of those tokens with the rules and permissions, objects read, write, or admin read, write, whatever you want. And apart from this, so as I told, we have workers and routes. Workers is like a serverless JavaScript TypeScript functions, no cold start, handle API request, redirect transformation, and all of those things. Either you can deploy your workers by using an CLI, or as I told you, we are using something called as AI Studio Build Pipeline. We are using a centralized pipeline for Cloudflare. So if you don't remember, I will show you again. If I go here in our get T, and if I go to this organization human as IQ, I can search for pipeline. Here the logic has written for Cloudflare API and worker. So you don't need to manually deploy anything. You just need to create a repo, connect your webhook with the Cloudflare API if it is a backend, or if it is a front end, connect with the worker, and it will automatically deploy your things for you. We have set the environment variables in our organizations. And if I want to show you how the workers and all of those looks like, so API Graph Studio API. So this is an API, which means this is a backend, and you can see here is a wrangler.toml file. Here you are going to write the bindings and all of those things. What is the base URL? What is the webhook URL? And all of those things. Okay. So here is the part you are going to write the base URL, what is the API key, and what is the label, and all of those things. So here you are going to mention the logics and bindings, and that bindings will be bind to your workers, and it will be shown to any of the workers. If you want to see is the binding applied to any of the worker, you can go to the workers. Go to any of the workers and see bindings. Here you can see what it is bind to. If there are not any bindings, it will show you not the binding. Let me see the binding one. So that, can you see this? This will tell you this API is bind to which thing. So it is bind to a database, it is bind to Kiwi namespace, and multiple databases it is binded to. Okay. So this is how you will know that whether the bind has been applied or not. And if the bind has been working for you, which means that it is connected to database. And for database connection, you need database ID. Once you create a database ID, it will have some data. Once you create a database, it will have a database ID. So if I go here and if I search for any database, you can see database ID at here. Okay. And this database ID is used to bind the database with the worker. Routes, I told you how and why we are using routes. Basically, routes tells Cloudflare to send the request to the matching request to the worker. Multiple routes can point to the same worker. Custom domains can be assigned to workers, and unmatched routes fall through to the origin server. I think now you have a pretty much clear idea about what R2 object storage and even SQL database is. So R2 is like S3 compatible storage. No cost to read data out, as I told you. You can store images, files, backups, static assets into your R2 buckets. Accessible from workers by R2 bindings, and supports pre-designed URLs for direct uploads. And in D1 database, it is a SQLite serverless database, runs at the edge, full SQL support, select, insert, join, etc. It is also accessible from workers. You can directly bind by using D1 bindings, and used for application data in our backend workers. So this is the part where I am going to show you. So this is how it looks, wrangler.toml. So this is the config file for each worker bindings. Declare which Cloudflare resources the worker can access at runtime. Bindings are available on the environment. So this is how the wrangler.toml will look. Name of the worker, my backend API, source.index days, compatibility date. Then the binding, you can see I have inputted D1 bindings. Binding is this DB, database name is this, and the database ID is this. For R2 bucket, same, binding is this, bucket name is this. And variables, I'm going to put out the variables. Okay, this is the environment production. These are the variables for the productions. Bindings, variables name in your code, Cloudflare injects at runtime. No credentials needed, no connection states is needed. Secure by default, no secrets in code. Also, if there is a sensitive value, you can directly set up secrets in Cloudflare. You do not need to put those values into your worker.toml file. You need to go to the Cloudflare and you can directly add the secrets. Moving on, front-end apps pass configuration values directly. So there is a difference between backend and front-end. In front-end, at the client side, you can't use environment variables. It doesn't use wrangler.toml bindings. It directly, you can use environment variables, but it can't use wrangler.toml bindings. It runs in the browser. So we pass API URLs, public keys, and config values directly by environment variables at build time. It is happening on build time, and that backend is happening on runtime. So the difference between backend and frontend: backend uses wrangler.toml bindings, frontend doesn't use it. Backend has direct access to R2D1 by environment. Frontend doesn't have. We need to pass it as directly as environment variables. Secrets can be accessed by Wrangler secret. We need to set secrets in pages dashboards in frontend. It is server side, so it is secure, not exposed. Front end is client side, so only use public values. So whenever something is client side, make sure to don't put your sensitive values to it. Otherwise, it will cause you a lot of issues. And now coming to the Portainer, I think everybody understood how Cloudflare works, what is Cloudflare, what is R2, what is D1. If you guys have any doubts, you can ask me right now, because Portainer is a little bit of different thing. Then I will start with the Portainer. Let me know if you are clear on Cloudflare. I don't think so. Like, it's very complicated. Clear, all good? Any doubts? Okay, I will ask questions then. Renuka, what is D1?
Database.
Yeah, but why we use D1 database? Yeah, so we need to know why. Ishan, you shared thumbs up, so I'm expecting that you know the answer.
For the D1 data,
Yeah. You are on mute.
it's a serverless database that we use for it's a serverless database based on SQLite, which is used for storing relational. Like, since SQLite is a relational database, so we use it for storing similar objects.
Correct. So the thing is that why we use Cloudflare, because first of all, it is very least costly as per the other providers. Second of all, it gives us automation backups, so we don't need to take backups. It automatically provides to us. We can roll back at any time. Also, we can scale it up at any time. At any point of time, if we are thinking that the data is getting loaded or overloaded or something like that, we can just enable the read replications, and it will creates multiple replicas of that data into different regions, right? So if you don't know about these topics, what is replications is, how does read replications, write replications work, you need to understand it. So the thing is that whenever we will deploy a database or we create any database here, it is not deployed into a single region. If the read replication is on, it will deploy into the multiple regions, and it will fetch the data from the nearest region. But the thing is that if suppose one database is failed, our whole thing will go on to the jeopardize, right? My data is lost. But with Cloudflare, it is not going to be happen, because it is going to store that database into a copy of that database into a different region, which will have which will have those data. So it gives us fast access, it gives us backups, and it gives us security and all of these things. That's why we are using Cloudflare services, and that's why we are using D1 SQL database. Same way for R2 object, as I told you, R2 object, we are using it because for other providers and other services, if I'm looking for any of the data, if I need to read from the R2 buckets, they are going to charge. But in Cloudflare, they are not going to charge me. They are only going to charge me of what I am storing into it, not what I am using. Are you getting my point? So whenever you are going to work into the organization, or whenever you are going to work into the into any of your fields or any of the things which you are going to work on, if it is related to any of the technology, you should know these things, because you need to, many companies didn't grow because they don't, they have so many services running in the backend which they don't need. They are going to over complex all of those things. Why you heard of it, like many of the companies uses Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes is a very good tool as well. But why we don't use Kubernetes? Why we use Portainer? Why we use Docker Swarm? Is it because we don't need it? Because that heavily architecture is needed for the companies which has a lots of data, which has a lot of data, which have a highly complex architecture, and all of those things. For us, it is not needed. We are, and also it is easy to learn and easy to manage. So Kubernetes is, it is very hard to manage, and Docker Swarm is very easy to manage. So there's a difference between what is you need and what you are delivering, right? So the thing is that based on our needs, we are using this architecture because we think that this is much suited to us, and also it is cost effective. So that's why we are using these things. Now, moving into the Portainer, did somebody? Yeah, Vaishnav.
Kaysan, you told about the workers, so I wanted to ask, like, if the in Cloudflare, if the traffic increases, so the workers is scale automatically in the Cloudflare.
It doesn't scale automatically. I don't think so, but we can scale it at any of the time. If we think that the traffic is getting increased or any of thing like that, we could scale at any point of time. And I think we can also, if we have enabled the auto scaling options, it will automatically scale. But I think by default we set it as off. And as a small company, I don't think so. We have a lot of data or a lot of people requesting to our servers. But once we are going to publish those things, or once many of the people are start using those workers or any of the sites, we will automatically scale it up, or we have that policy into it. So based on the traffic, basically. So if the traffic is less, then there is no need. So based on the traffic, it will automatically scale it up or scale it down. Yeah, Isha.
So let's say in case in the future, if we need to scale up the database or basically the project to something big, then we would have to attach things like load balancers and everything in order to balance the like compute load, right?
Cloudflare automatically provides us load balancing. We don't need to.
So you don't have to hard code or even do some
No.
special functions for it.
No, it provides us automatically. We don't need to do that. Load balancing is a future of the Cloudflare. If you don't know SSL, TLS, that is also provided by Cloudflare. Domain name systems, you have heard of GoDaddy and all of those things. Cloudflare also provides that domain names, as I showed you, DNS and all of those things. So it provides everything related to domains, related to the load balancing, DNS, SSL, TLS, all those certifications which will tell you, hey, this website is not protected, something like that. So that certificates also get provided by Cloudflare. So we have all of these services. There are a lot of more services that we have in Cloudflare. AI services also has been there in Cloudflare. So there are multiple services. If you explore, you will get it. But the major services that we are using is workers, pages, D1, SQLite database, and R2 buckets. Yeah, Vaishnavi.
So what if the Cloudflare goes down? We have any another backup.
Yeah, that is a interesting question, Vaishnavi. It happens once. It goes down, and our applications also stopped working, and some of the application which is dependent on the Cloudflare, such as ChatGPT, also stopped working. So yeah, that is the problem. That is the problem. So That is basically it's a good question, but the answer to that question is that the thing is that that's why we are doing self-hosted and all of those things, right? Because that thing we can control it because it is on our server. Cloudflare is not on our server; it is in their server. They are managing it, so we do not have own control over it. So basically, we can't do anything about it. But Portainer, that's why we are doing hybrid thing. We have whatever we can support and whatever we can deploy to at our own server, we are deploying to it. So that's why we are using a hybrid approach. So some of the applications, if you see, is deployed onto the Portainer, Dockerized containers, it's deploying and managing into the Portainers. And Git is also self-hosted. So if GitHub is down, it is not going to impact us because we are managing on our own self-hosted server. But based on your question, yeah, we can't do anything about it. Like if it goes down, it is not only going to impact us, it is going to impact many of the big companies. Like ChatGPT is also using Cloudflare. So what we can do is basically we could have instead of depending on one provider, we could also have one to two more providers in the backup, so that if one of the providers get gone down, we can switch our traffic to that provider. We can do that. So, okay. Any other, like I only see Vaishnavi and Ishan is interested. Like others, what about others? Rishika, Anshuman, Garvit. Come on, guys. Any questions? Yeah, Anshuman.
Can you recap how you connect the environment variables like Wrangler to ML to project again, please?
Yeah, so whenever you want to connect anything into your project, there is a file you are going to create wrangler.toml, and here you are going to write your environment variables. Where's name, what is the name, is the read replication enabled, you can see is false, right? We can by default make it false, or we can by default change it to true. It's up to us. So we can also that pass to as an environment variable. What is the base URL would be, what is the API key, what is the decrypt API URL. All of the things we can pass it here in the wrangler.toml file. So this is the file where you are going to pass your environment variables and where you are going to pass your bindings.
So how is it different from .env files?
Yeah, it is not different from .env files. Basically, the thing is that the thing is that whenever you use wrangler.toml file, it is going to look into that file and it is going to take, okay, these are the environment variables you are putting it, and it is going to directly insert it into your this Cloudflare. So it is same as environment variables. It is used to manage actual environment variables only. Like whatever you put there, it is going to use those values as an environment variables and deploy it to the Cloudflare automatically. You don't need to deploy it manually. Ankit, you joined late. Missed a good part. Fine. So I think Cloudflare is clear to everybody. Now I will move with Portainer. So here comes the good part that we are using Portainer as a GUI, which stands for Graphical User Interface, that manages our Docker Swarm cluster. So you guys have heard about Docker, right? Many of you knows what is Docker, how to use Docker and all of those things. But there is something called as Docker Swarm, which is used to manage multiple Docker's containerized applications, same as Kubernetes. If you heard Kubernetes, Kubernetes also used to manage multiple Docker containers, right? Same way Docker Swarm does. But Docker Swarm is a very lightweight tool which allows us to manage easily. And it also has self-healing auto capability. So if any of my container fails, it will automatically restart the containers and attach containers to it. So it also has some of the capabilities which Kubernetes does, but it is a very lightweight and easy to use and easy to understand, and it is very friendly and interactive tool. So whenever you write a .yaml file and all of those things, either you need to write in the .yaml and either you need to use CL and all of those things. But with GUI, with Portainer, it's very easy to manage and very easy to deploy. So whenever I want to deploy something in Portainer, what I do, basically, I will log in into the Portainer, and this is our server. Okay. This is our server which we have connected to. In this server, you can see how many stacks are running, what is the IP address we are using, and all sorts of things. What is the RAM? What is the CPU? What are the nodes? What are the volumes? How many images? All of those things you can see. Here, if I go to our playtest environment, there's this section, dashboard section. This will give you an overview of how many stacks are there, containers, volumes, networks, images, and services. And there is something called as cluster visualizer. Here you can see a visualization of your cluster information. What are the things are deployed here, what is the image, status, update, and all of those things. All of these stacks, like it provides you visualization also. And if you don't need, you can just hide it. And there's a section called as stacks. So inside this stacks, what I do is I deploy a Docker Compose file. If I click any of the Docker Compose, suppose Light LLM, this is deployed by me. So if you see this, these are the services which is running. Two services which I'm running. One is Redis for caching purposes, and one is Light LLM service. If I go to the edit, you can see this tag. These are the Docker Compose file which I am using. This Docker Compose file, if you see, it has an image, it has an environment variables, and if you see, I do not hard code anything at all. So everything either is passed to environment variables, or if it is a sensitive value, I use secrets. Okay, and we have configs and entry points. So some of the secrets, when we use secrets, some of the secrets doesn't work because that application is expecting to use as an environment variable. So what we do is just we pass those secrets as an environment variables at the entry point. So that's why you can see this entry point here, entry point section here. And traffic, as I explained you, proxy, reverse proxy. So traffic is a reverse proxy which allow us to host our applications, okay, onto the internet without exposing the backend servers. So that's why we are using traffic. And then the another service I told you, Redis, which we are using for caching purposes. So this is how we deploy a container. And here we have environment variable section where we pass the environment values. Okay. And if I show you the domain, so the domain you can check what is the in traffic I have written. If I go here, so traffic, it will routes my AI LLM service to the domain. What is my domain is? Domain is this. So if I copy, if I open new tab, if I click on enter, you can see that it is working and it is loading. So I will show you how and what Light LLM is on tomorrow's session. We have a tomorrow session on Light LLM. I will tell you on that on tomorrow's session. But this is how the Portainer works. We need to deploy our stacks. We need to deploy the service. If some of the services got fail, or if I need to update any service, if some change happened, I can directly update the stack. It will update the service and all sorts of things. So basically, we can do stack management, network isolations, external traffic, public network for ingress traffic. Traffic is both public and private networks, but container never directly exposed to the internet, as I told you. And it also provides SSL and TLS termination and traffic on Cloudflare. It has auto discovery feature. New containers get routed instantly, and all of those sorts of things. So the main difference between why we are using traffic is that whenever you use traffics, you don't need to, whenever you add, suppose, some domain or some routes, right? So for updating those routes, if you use Nginx, you need to update it. You need to update it manually. But with traffic, it automatically discovers those service and it automatically updates those service without any reload or without any restart. So that's why we are using traffic as a reverse proxy. Then this is the most important part, logs and observability. So if something went wrong, how you are going to identify it and how you are going to debug it. So debugging is the skill which any engineer is needed, and they should know where and what to look where something went wrong. So if in Cloudflare, if something went wrong, how you can look? There's a section called as, if you go to any workers which we deployed, suppose this, not this, let's try Graph Studio. Let's try Graph Studio. There's a section called as observability. I am going to enable this. This is playtest, right? I'm going to click on live. I'm going to click on begin live, log stream. Then when I start log stream, I am going to redirect to the www.playtest.graph studio. Here, I'm going to try it out, execute it. It will show me unauthorized because I didn't authorize with the key. But as you can see, I get post request here. At post request, I can see what is the request sent to. It is a create get t repo. It creates log. It is showing me 200, 200. It is showing me headers, cookies, payload, and all sorts of things. And at some point of time, it will show us a message that what went wrong based on the request. So it is showing 401. As you can see, 401, which means unauthorized. So if you want to see the logs, you can check the logs. It is showing here also. Message error creating get t repo. It is giving me error 200, something like that. So whenever you want to check the logs, you can enable, go to observability, enable log stream. And when you are done with it, when you identify the log issue, you can just pause the log, clear the logs, and get out of it. Don't keep it on because it is going to cause an issue. Make sure when you needed it, just keep it on. And then when you don't need it, just turn it off. In Cloudflare, it works like that. In Portainer, it is a little bit different. So in Portainer, if I need to see the logs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to any of these tags, suppose light LLM. I don't need to send any request or anything like that. I can go directly to that service. Then inside that service, there is a section called as service logs. I can go to the service logs and I can see, okay, this is giving some errors. This request is giving me 200 and all sorts of things. I can see what went wrong. Okay, there's some proxy error. I need to look into it and then I need to solve it. Fail to reset budget windows for teams. So I need to look into that and I need to solve it. So I get the logs. I know what to look into it. I know what to sort to. If there are a lot of logs, then how to figure it out? I can search based on the filter like 201. There is no logs. Okay, 20. Okay, 200 is giving this logs. Budget team, it is showing I'm getting this log. I can filter it out. I can also download the logs, or I can make the logs convert to 10,000 lines or any number of lines so that it will be much smaller to look into it and identify. So this is the most important part that you should know, how to check C logs and how to identify what went wrong and how to fix it. So the first thing when you are fixing something, you need to know where to look into it. So for Cloudflare, where you're going to look into it, workers, observability, enable log stream. For Portainer, you are going to go to the servers, like suppose humanize IQ playtest environment. Inside the servers, you are going to select these tags. Light LLM is not working or Light LLM is providing any errors. I'm going to choose Light LLM stack. I'm going to inside that service, and then there is a section called as service logs. I'm going to click into it, and I'm going to see the logs. Do you understand? So I guess that much pretty it. So if you like this session, please provide your feedback. And if you have any doubts, you can reach out to me now. Also, if you have any doubts, you can tell me. Like, everything is clear. Vaishnavi, Ishan, Anshuman. Any doubts? Okay, Rishika, first time. Tell me.
No, so I wanted to ask, can you repeat the process like what you said, how to check logs for Cloudflare?
You need to go to the workers. Any of the workers, you need to go to the workers and pages. Select which workers you need to look into it. Suppose Craft Studio. I am going to search Craft Studio here. I enter Craft Studio, which environment you are looking into it. So we are using naming convention dash playtest dash dev dash prod. Don't use dash. We prefer to use underscore everywhere. It is created long before, that's why it has dash. But if you see below the down, it has underscores. So whenever you deploy something, make sure you are also mentioning the environment underscore playtest underscore dev underscore prod or underscore eating prod, and then you can, because it is easier to identify, then you can go there. There is a option called as observability. Click onto it, open the live section, and begin the log string. And it establish the WebSocket connection. It will start listening for events. So you need to send a request to that URL, and it will automatically fetch the logs. And once you are done, pause the log string and go back and turn it off. Simple as that. Okay, yeah, Renuka.
What if we do not turn off that log? It will be infinitely logging there.
Yeah, so that is not good, right? Infinitely logging is not good.
Like
By
if
default,
we come out of that page, will it not automatically stop?
no, it will not automatically stop. You need to make stop by choosing that button. Renuka.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ishan.
How exactly is DDoS prevented by Cloudflare?
So Cloudflare has its own security layer. So it has DDoS protection layer and all sorts of these things. So it automatically does it. Like, I don't know actually how it works behind the scenes, but it automatically provides those services. So we don't need to worry about those things that hacker is going to hack it. And the main thing is that, as I told you, it uses reverse proxy, right? So it never exposes your backend servers to the internet. So if the internet doesn't know your backend servers, it just know up. Suppose, for example, you have created a web application, right? And your web application has backend servers. It needs to connect with the front end or with the client. Okay. So whenever clients ask something, it is not going to it doesn't know that backend is existed. It doesn't know at all. The client is going to go to the Cloudflare, and Cloudflare is going to give that the answer. Cloudflare will go to the backend server, fetch the results, and those results it's going to pass to the client. So it acts as a middleware. It will not allow to know that somebody else is there, somebody else is present. So in that manner, it kind of saved us without exposing anything to the internet. So if you're not exposed to internet, there is no possibility to be get hacked, kind of. But still, people hacked it. It's not like that it's not possible, but it provides a lot of better security. So if you see that we are using also NetBud, so NetBud is also kind of providing us that only you guys can access, because I added you as an PS. So it is only for the internal users. You guys know, if you use your this URLs into different PC, it will not work. Why? Because we are not publishing those URLs directly to the internet. It is privately we have published it, and it is only allows for the users who is connected to the same network, right? So it is kind of a different thing, but the logic is kind of the same. Like it is not exposing the things directly onto the internet. That is how it saves us from the DDoS attacks.
But the costing on Cloudflare must be on the basis of requests sent per second or something.
For the database and R2 bucket, for the R2 bucket it is not, but for the database and workers it is. So yeah, based on the request it is sent, or based on the traffic it is going to charge it. But for some amount of request per day, it is going to give it free. So I was using Cloudflare AI services, and it has something like, I don't recall, but I guess I could use up to thousands requests per day or something like that. Or it has some limitations on the monthly manner, like 5,000 or something. So that is free. If I cross that limit, then it is going to charge based on what they have amount into it. So per request, per that they are going to charge. But the thing is that for some of the requests or for some of the things, it is going to give you a lot of free credits or a lot of free things. After you cross that limit, it is going to charge. So if you see, we can, this is a very good thing I'm going to tell you guys also. From Cloudflare, it will allow me to deploy 500 workers. I can't deploy more than 500 workers. So it has plans, multiple plans. Okay, it has a standard basic plan, which it has a business level plan, and then it will go beyond that and all of those things. So we are at the standard or the business level plan. So on that plan, it allows us to deploy 500 workers. Okay. So if we want to deploy more than 500 workers, either we can delete the old workers we are not using it, or either we can upgrade our plan at any point of time. So whenever these things comes into the picture that we are very much high traffic, or we need more work, or we need more things, then we can easily just upgrade our plan or upgrade our database or upgrade those scalability. It is going to be instant. We can do it at any point of time, and it is going to be at instant. And then it is going to charge on the basis of that plan and those subscriptions which we have bought or which we have selected.
But let's say someone wants to crash a particular site which is hosted on Cloudflare, and that site has a particular quota of querying the D1 server. So if someone DDoSes the site and then sends enough queries for the D1 server to max out, then after that it would start costing the person who's owning the site, right?
Yeah, so that's why we put rate limitations and all of those sorts of things, right? If your site doesn't have rate limitations, that it means that any hacker could have hacked your site, and if any competitors have hacked your site, and that site will go down. So that's why we have rate limitations, that at per minute, it could send this many of the requests or this many things into your site, so that your site will be protected. If the request is more than this, it will not allow it. Basically, it will not allow to send more than this amount of request at this amount of time. Within 1 minute, it will allow more than 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,000 requests, but not more than that. That will be harmful for a website, something like that. So we are using rate limiting also, so we could be safe from that perspective. Hey, Tasneem.
So how to access Cloudflare, Kaysan?
Yeah, I will provide you the access for it. After this, I will provide you all of you the access for the Cloudflare. Then you can start working on it. I will also give you some assignments. I will post into the Slack, and you will start exploring the Cloudflare. Okay. Any more questions, Anshuman? I will make it a competition. I will give it as a deadline, like in 3 hours, in 1 hour. Like I will set up a deadline based on the complexity of the task, and if you complete it within the hours, then we will get to know who understood this training session. Right? So whoever doesn't raise their hands, like Renuka and all of those people, I will expect that they will be the first to complete those assignments.
Actually, I raised the hand.
I think everybody did in this session. Ankit, do you have any doubts? You are the only person I think who didn't spoke. Ankit and Garvit.
I mean, it's a little like broad, like ambiguous for me right now because it's completely new. But once I start doing the exercises you're going to provide, then I think I'll like realize exactly where my doubts lie, and then I'll come to you with questions.
Yeah, I will happy to have some questions. What about Garvit? All good?
Yes.
Okay. So Garvit will be the first person who is going to complete the assignments. He told me that he understood each and every concepts and all is good basically. So I'm expecting